name is Ali Belzer. I am a licensed professional counselor, a specialist in experiential education, and a clinical adventure therapist.
My name is Amanda Reedy, a licensed clinical social worker working as a mental health therapist. We believe therapy is a great tool for healing. However, we want to demystify what healing can look like, as in our experience, people care for themselves in creative, intuitive, and determined ways.
Each episode, we will get curious about healing that is outside traditional talk therapy and deconstruct how healing can be a practice that is innate to who we are. Just as singing is to birds and making honey is to bees, it's just what we do. Let's get it. In this episode, Manda and I talk about experiential therapy, the tenets of experiential therapy, and how they're applied to all sorts of therapeutic modalities, but also on a broader level, how experiences offer the most direct path to real healing, real change, real emotion. This episode will also be the final episode of Season 2 of That's My Therapy podcast. We grew a lot this season and learned a lot more about what it means to be a consistent and collaborative podcast, and are really looking forward to applying what we learned to Season 3. I want to shout out special thanks to those who truly supported us through this season. A very big thank you to Kat Lopez, Sarah Spidell, Irene, Carson McPherson-Krutsky, Annalise, Mimi Fetzer, Sawyer Letourneau, Brandon and Malika, and Nicholas Croft. Also want to do a huge shout out to those who helped make the podcast really worth something this season. Kelsey Rose, thank you for editing and providing such beautiful support and feedback. And thank you to Delaney Brassel, who took on the elements of the podcast that Manda and I find pretty heinous to do, such as social media and communications. I really hope you enjoy this episode and find experiential therapy to be something that is integratable into your daily life, not just in the walls of a counseling office, because that's what we're all about. We really appreciate your time with us this season and hope to see you in the next. Stay close. Welcome. What's been your therapy this week?
It's been doing the hard thing even when it's uncomfortable or you don't know the right way to show up. Show up. That's what I think matters.
Yeah.
I had a hard thing happen to a friend, and it's really easy to say, well, they have other support and there's a lot of people visiting, or I don't have the right thing to say, or I don't know what to say, or what do I offer, or what's my value here? And it's just never the wrong move to show up, to do something that's more than a text, that is, that just really lets people, shows people that they matter, and it shows that to yourself, that you're a person who shows up when things matter. Even when it's like, it's really easy to talk yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And I just was reflecting on all the times of real hardship in just our own lives, and you just never forget the people who showed up. And it was really making me think of the roles that we play in life, and how there's so many beneficial ones, right?
Yeah.
There are the people who make the food to say, this is how I'll show love, and there are the people who mow the lawns for people, and this is how they show up. And they're the people who help financially, and then there are the space holders, and And then there are just the bodies in the room that signify my physical presence. You matter so much to me that I brought my physical presence to where your physical presence is.
So I'm calling to mind, I did like a wooey but pretty beautiful like energy session following a close friend passing. And it was like about a year later, and I just like had not been able to even say her name like without losing it. And I kind of got to the bottom of that, like I can't acknowledge her existence, because I just had it in my head or in my body even that like I cannot burden her with one more thing. Like she carried so much while living. I just like can't bother her with like my grief for her. And that was kind of how I was approaching life in general, is like I'm at capacity. Like I cannot lean toward anything that feels real, challenging, new, or even like authentic. Like I was really struggling to just like lean into my humanness.
Right.
And during this session, I like kind of got to tap into her energy. And she sent me the message like very clearly of like, lean in so far it feels like rest. And like there was this image of like me leaning against something that I had been like so resistant to like put my weight on. And things just got like a lot freer after that, of like, oh, I rather using the energy to fight the thing that needs to happen is actually so much more exhausting than like leaning in with trust. And I think leaning in is a different type of showing up than like directing or driving. Like I'm leaning into like what is there and is calling me, not necessarily I need to take control of this situation. I just get to get out of its way.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And what you believed to be destructive, like the grief would destroy you, to turn towards it was what actually gave you the most
power
and peace.
Peace and power.
And then what it did and it gave so much permission to others in a way that you didn't even realize.
Right.
Just by sharing the story of you tapping into your grief. It, like we talked about last week, it cracked your system, my Ice Age open, wall. To say, do you hear what's happening? Because I was like, I need a path forward, but I don't know how to do it. And then you shared your story, and then it was like, you have options. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, right. I do know how to do this. I can trust this. Like, and it was, So when I say like, oh, what's my therapy is doing the hard thing, even if it's uncomfortable, what I'm saying is like, if therapy is doing something that keeps you close to your feelings, your body, and your community, we also have to remember that your feelings are hard sometimes. Your body is uncomfortable in times of stress and challenge and hardship, and your community grieves sometimes and hurts and also holds together. So, leaning into that is a form of healing in itself. So.
And I think it's really important here to like reframe the language of when we say just do it, or like do it anxious, do it mad, like still do it. This isn't the Nike swish of like capitalistic productivity, of like discipline, like go to the gym anyway, and like hit your goals anyway. it's more so
It's like answer the call.
answer what is already there.
Yeah.
Lean toward what is pressing upon you.
Yeah. Lean into the values that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lean into what is compelling right now for you to lean in on.
Yeah. Even if it's not enticing, right? Even if you know it
Yeah.
will be uncomfortable to see.
Yeah.
Or to hold or to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like we're meant to be uncomfortable. And that is where sometimes exactly where we need to be. And then in order to feel okay with ourselves
Yeah.
later, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Moving toward connection and empowered choice is more healing than
Then avoidance and distraction. Even if it feels less uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think of the times I didn't show up in the way that I wanted to show up far more than the times that I showed up and said the wrong thing or didn't have a skill to add or a thing to say. But the times where I'm like, wow, you missed the mark on that. I'll feel forever.
Yeah.
Where I had an opportunity of should I go? Should I not? It's okay. They're okay. I'm not going to go. And now I really take that to heart of like, you know, when we talk about having stories about your family, like me and Nick, we're like, hey, we're shower uppers. Mm-hmm. We will drive, we will travel, we will make time. We won't bring food. I won't provide any accommodations. I'm not going to be great at that, right? I'm not going to plan very much, but like my body will be where your body is if your body needs my presence. Yeah. You know? So, and I think that we have quite a few long distance friends too. And it's like that matters, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do the hard thing when you know it's what's right. Yeah. What's right for you. What's been your therapy?
My therapy has been violent physical labor.
I wondered because your yard looks so nice.
Yes, we butched off hard for the past several weekends, and we call it butch off. It's a competition between me and all my treasured loved ones, not even just the gays. Whenever we do something characteristically masculine, we call it butch off. And whoever did the most butch thing gets this little trophy that we pass around. And
oh, it's not metaphorical.
There's real.
There's been a trophy made.
Well, found at a thrift store.
That says?
No, I need to
decorate it?
I need to decorate it still. But it is a very fun little trophy that we pass around.
Nice. I wouldn't know. I've never won. Sometimes I just stand at a problem and go, how can I, as a feminist, solve this problem without having to call my dad? And then I walk away and I do a little YouTube and then I end up just making the calls.
Yeah. Your defense, I called Dad to put up a shelf.
Yeah.
Because I was at capacity and there was 6 holes in the wall already, having not worked getting that shelf up. There has been something freeing about violent physical labor. In that,
I mean, violent? That's what you're going with?
I'm going with violent. I'm going with violent physical labor.
We're delivered so much mulch with aggression.
Okay, let me explain. Boise, Idaho has this thing called a chip drop, and arborists all over the city kind of sign up with this program. And when they do all their spring tree trimming, they'll like drop the mulch, the leftover mulch, at people's houses who sign up. And I think it was end of day. I think it was end of work day. Yeah. They were either going to dump the mulch at our place or all the mulch, not just what we asked for.
Yes.
Or go to the dump or like several other houses.
Yeah.
So I think they, to their credit, they called Sarah.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, we actually have 30 cubic yards. Now, I don't have a running metric of what a cubic yard is. This would have been a call to our father.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, we're tearing up a lot of grass. Yeah, dump it. It was as tall as the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we come home to violence.
It was an aggressive amount.
It was an aggressive amount of mulch.
Yeah.
And was a very aggressive process to move said mulch / tear up our lawns because we hate grass. And there's something really like when I kind of go over this edge, and I can't really pinpoint what it is, but I'll go over the edge of like physical exertion, and that like bees in the brain kind of hum that sometimes I don't even realize is always happening in my brain. It's like I turned the kitchen vent off.
Oh my gosh, what a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, whoa, I did not know what was there. And then there's just this clarity. And then, like, very recently, it culminated in like that final little tap in place of a porch swing.
Yeah.
And I was like,
right at sunset, like the sun
yes,
was
I was like,
down, and then we got to sit on the back patio, and it looked so nice. It was so satisfying.
Yeah. And like everything was done, and
your body was really hurting, but
it was exhausted,
like, in a good way.
I'm gonna say spent.
Yeah.
But specifically, like, spent in how it feels good to buy something you really care about. Of like, this was costly.
Yes.
This was costly, mostly in time and energy, because we got free stuff from the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I spent...
aggressive act of charity.
We are pro chip drop. Yeah, several requests for experiential therapy. So this is kind of if I was to plug into anything at night and like recharge, it would be experiential therapy. Like, this is my power source for most things that I do, say, or believe in. Is that it's in the experience. But what I really love about it is that it's really broadly applicable to many things. And it's the idea that as much as we can reflect on the past or hope and plan for the future, real transformational energy, change, growth, acceptance, that happens in the here and now. And it happens when we can turn ideas and concepts into memories, where we can interact with these things tangibly in a way that it sticks in our systems as something memorable, important, and more importantly, integratable. Like, we're not just talking about this and then you leave and forget about it forever. We've made an impact on something other than your brain. Let's see. What do you initially, when I say experiential therapy, like, what comes to mind in terms of modalities or interventions?
Body-based therapies, because the body only exists in the present, right? In the here and now. Play therapy. What's that called?
Recreation therapy.
Rec therapy, not theater. Psychodrama.
Yeah.
Interventions in family therapy, like family sculpting, family dance, things like that come to mind. Experiential to me is where we are not asking you to process what happened and then take that out of the therapy office. We are asking that to bring what happened into the therapy office and then do it, address it, feel it, change it in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. And then go forth with what has changed.
Yeah. So like, experiential family therapy.
Mm.
Any process that you would like to have a family do outside of the therapy office needs to be experienced and practiced inside a therapy office.
Mm.
And that would
Yes.
be true in individual as well.
Yeah.
You have to, it's not theoretical, it's experiential. It's not far away, it's close.
It's happening right now.
Right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people most frequently associate experiential therapy with like tangible therapies where you do something.
Mm-hmm.
Art therapy, psychodrama,
Mm-hmm.
Adventure therapy,
Mm-hmm.
recreational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And the real kind of heart of experiential therapy is a little bit broader than that. And it's really any intentional action that makes the unconscious conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's unconscious, it's really hard to get to the front, like get to those processes or feelings through the front door. Like,
okay, and what do you mean by the front door?
Okay. The front door is kind of the most direct, obvious line of contact between something that's happening and the reason behind it.
Okay, ask me a front door question.
Why do you say that to your husband? Or why can't you kind of meet your goals in times of I never ask front door questions.
Right.
What would be a front door question?
Well, yeah, a front door question could be like, what feelings came up today when you were visiting the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
That's like direct on the nose. It's asking something of you that you may or may not have accessibility to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or it kind of depends. People have different front doors. Like, oftentimes I'll try to get in through the route of the body of like, what's happening in your body right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people who maybe have learned that what their body is experiencing in terms of emotion and sensation is not safe, and they've kind of locked off that entry point, then I'd have to go a different route. If I say, what's happening in your body right now, which happened just the other day, someone was like, I don't want to answer that question.
Yeah.
And that was me being like, oh, all right, that's a front door. Me asking what's happening in your body. Let me in. I feel like I have something to offer you, but it feels aggressive. It feels like it's fueled by agenda.
Yeah.
And it's just like not welcome. And so I think that's the way to rephrase it is like, people will have different entry points. And the front door entry point is typically the one where they're like, whoa, I get to choose who comes in here. You can't just like come in and explore.
Yeah.
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 So experiential therapy works to find other access points. And typically it's just by putting people in situations where just their patterns come up without having to search for them, reach for them, etc.
Right.
So I like to say, like, do you want to find out what you're working on? I'm going to put you 30 feet on a climbing wall and like, we're going to find out. It's going to show up. And it doesn't have to be that aggressive. Like we can find a lot of different entry points into what someone is experiencing.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you got it.
I'm better than you last time, but
you got it. Hold on. We'll do the whole thing. So if you can see this is called a flutter ring. This is a really easy experiential intervention that can happen really quickly, which is basically without me having to really guide the process. So a flutter ring has these little rings that are on a big ring. And if you get the little rings started and then you rotate the big ring, there we go. The little rings will keep spinning. And all I have to do is look at a client and say, can I pass this to you? And you try to keep it going. And even if it was completely unsuccessful, like there was a lot there that now I just have the opportunity to notice.
Yeah.
So I can say like, okay, what happened for you when you were watching me getting the ring started?
Okay, well, first, like attention that I'm like, no, she's not going to be able to do it. How am I going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
And then the waiting of knowing you're going to pass it to me. And then the real me messing it up. And then my cheeks feel red because I feel embarrassed and inadequate.
Yeah. So much came up in 20 seconds, including like there was a shift from watching me struggle to what if that will be me?
Yeah.
/ oh no, she got it. Now it has to be me. So now all I can say, rather than like punching right in with like
tell me about a time you've ever felt insecure. Be like, oh,
yeah, do you have bad insecurities?
Right.
Or are you embarrassed a lot? Why are you embarrassed? Really front door. Do you feel like the kind of walls go up with those types of questions?
Just doesn't feel accessible. Right? We're like, oh, yeah, I do, but I don't really. But when you are presented with a feeling that you're experiencing in the moment, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm about to be called on. It's like popcorn reading in school.
Yes.
And you're like, I have to be so wordy for every single word. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to show everyone that I'm the best reader.
Yes.
And I'm not going to embarrass myself.
And then you have a frog in the throat the second you start talking because
or you accidentally say orgasm instead of organism in a biology class.
Kill me.
You're like, I guess
I'll die.
Life's over.
Yes. Yes. So that would be the next natural question. And your body just kind of went there. One, because you're kind of have access to this as a therapist.
Sure.
But you described a feeling. It's like, oh, I got really anxious and tight, and then like really anticipatory, and then finally fearful and embarrassed.
Right. But then lots of silliness because it's
silly. Of course. And like
but it's also like low stakes, right?
Yeah. It's low stakes enough. Like this is a ring, but it's an entry point to me saying, is that feeling familiar? When did that feeling start talking to you that way? And it's like, oh, when I was in school and like being really judged on my performance. Or so now suddenly we're at a much deeper level and bringing really intimate and tender past experiences into the moment and holding them just with the action of doing something new and a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
All that unconscious stuff was conscious. So let's identify some key tenets of experiential therapy. The first is bottom-up processing, or what I like to call root to bud. So there are some therapeutic modalities that kind of operate under a trickle-down economics type thinking. These are like typically behavioral therapies, like cognitive behavioral therapy.
Thoughts impact
Thoughts impact beliefs, impact emotions, impact behaviors. Or the last two can be kind of switched. So those are kind of top down, and those modalities can be really helpful, especially when meeting someone in crisis or otherwise needing immediate regulation and control over their system. And there can come a point in those types of therapies that you can feel like you plateau or you hit a bit of a barrier.
Yes.
And typically this is where, okay, I'm like in control and relatively attuned to my system now. I'm ready for something a little bit deeper. And this is actually kind of changes the goal of therapy entirely. In that experiential therapy, the goal is always, or most often, about self-exploration and not self-regulation.
Mm.
So a lot of different therapies, or honestly, the reason many people go to therapy is with the simple sentence, well, I want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to feel more at ease.
Mm-hmm.
We now know, just like the way our bodies hold past experiences, trauma, etc., relationships, attachment, that there is not a permanent Band-Aid on our lived experience of like recovering from it. And that we kind of learn, I compare it to if you broke your ankle tomorrow, just a bad trip,
Yeah.
and decided not go to the doctor, which I feel like is natural for you to do.
It'll heal.
It will. Your body will just heal, and probably to the point of functionality again.
Mm.
And if it heals in a way that is a little bit crooked or in line with the injury that happened to you,
Yeah.
then that is likely to cause you struggle later on.
Sure.
And typically, in the physiological sense, what happens to people whose like bones recovered in a way without like proper intervention is sometimes, in severe cases,
got to re-break that.
You have to re-break it, set it, and let it heal again.
Mm.
So this is kind of the balance work we do in experiential therapy and trauma therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, where can we push to the depths of the injury, understand it in new ways? Often this can feel pretty overwhelming as we like discover things about ourselves or discover the pain we're holding.
Mm-hmm.
This can feel like a re-break. This is vulnerable again.
Yeah.
And I typically warn clients in their first few weeks of sessions, they're going to be feeling raw. Like, even if all those sessions are, like, feel cathartic or cleansing in different ways, sometimes even positive, that we're peeling back layers and making things exposed. So root to bud and self-exploration versus self-regulation.
Which one's experiential? Is self-exploration?
Self-exploration
is experiential. Because regulation is not the highest value in experiential therapy.
It's not the highest value. Also, experiential therapy operates under the assumption that our bodies lean toward healing. Mm-hmm. By nature of being alive, we are leaning toward healing. Mm-hmm. And that a huge part of my philosophy as a therapist, I am not fearful of any emotion that my clients have. Yeah. I have never been scared of a feeling my client had. And we offer boundaries with feelings, right? Like, we're going to push to this point and no further. Yeah. And like, the point is, can we feel these emotions in a way where we can explore and understand them? Because our emotions have the capacity to move through us when they're met with empathy and attunement. Mm-hmm. When we get to say, oh, that makes sense.
It's my favorite thing to say.
Yeah. Ooh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, my favorite thing to say is, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Or some clients will say, that makes sense. And I says, does it make sense logically, or does it feel so true? And they say, oh, feel so true.
You know how I say that? They say, oh, that makes sense. And I say, where?
Oh, experience.
Yeah. And they go, yeah, it's like core feeling, right? You're like, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hit the true thing. Mm-hmm. When we move kind of away from fear of emotions and actually completely abandon the agenda of feeling happy, want to be happy. Because I know from experience and what we know just as therapists at this point, that being able to accept all parts of you, all of your emotions, and truly integrate your lived experience, while that can be a really painful process, I know you will have so much more capacity to feel joy. You will have more access to emotions on the positive side of the spectrum, or on like the more comfortable side of the spectrum, than ever before. So along with that, because we're kind of pushing this edge of like, we're going to explore versus regulate, explore within a container, we want to make sure that container is not defined by safety, which people tend to associate with comfort, ease, peacefulness. We're going to hold that container of connection and empowered choice.
Right.
So one, empowered choice being at all times, you are driving. You have the capacity to hit the brakes, make turns, completely turn around. You have the power to move through this space and interact with what's happening here in a way that's meaningful to you. And connection being whatever is shared here. One, if you find you have the capacity to share it, there's a good potential it will be met with empathy and attunement. Yeah. So that's the space I'm holding. Not necessarily I want your comfort level to stay here. And sometimes for clients who are really nervous that we won't have control over the situation, because control is a little bit different than comfort. Like I can have pretty strong control in pretty uncomfortable situations. Something I do with clients a lot who are nervous about that first step into like unknown territory, I tell them to go ahead and cross your arms like you normally would.
Okay.
Now go ahead and cross them the other direction. Do you feel how like this isn't natural? It feels maybe even a little icky, but you're also not on fire. Yeah. We're going to push that edge just for today. And you tell me when you're at that version versus comfort zone. But also like we're going to take stepping stones going there and back, rather than diving in. Yeah. With like maybe the goal to be, can we see more? Can we adventure deeper? Another one I do is go ahead and do a clockwise circle with your pointer finger, like looking up, kind of draw in the air, clockwise circle. Now, really slowly bring that circle, keep circling, and bring it below your nose. What direction is the finger going now?
Wait, did it switch?
Your movement did not shift at all. Your perspective changed significantly.
No, but that's because like Australia, right? No, that one actually, the toilets do go the other way on that.
They really do go the other way, but that's, I think, because of magnetic pull. That's not what's happening.
I'm so sleep deprived. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, duh. And then now it's going the other way because your perspective shifts.
Your perspective changed.
Right.
So often I'll guide people through a process where I'm like, we're just looking for that moment of shift where something you know to be true suddenly might take on another quality. Maybe there is more there than we were entirely positive to begin with.
That is such a good metaphor. I'm a stealer.
Steal everything. Everybody do this every day. Yeah, so holding a space defined by connection and empowered choice rather than safety. We have self-exploration versus self-regulation, and we have root to bud, bottom-up processing. What we do in the depths of ourselves has major consequences in our fruit and our blossoms. And lastly, we're zooming in and the here and now. This is where I usually, when someone shares maybe like an off-the-cuff realization, I've kind of have a bit more of a trained ear for this at this point. But it can be something as simple as if someone used parts language. well, part of me feels this way.
Yeah.
I don't breeze by that at all. I'll say, tell me about this part of you. I'll use some IFS, which is a very experiential modality.
Yeah.
I'll say, tell me more about this part. Can we give them a beingness? Where do you feel that part in your body? I can zoom in really intensely on that part. Or if someone mentions a belief, or if someone verbalizes maybe a vocal criticism that they say to themselves a lot, I'll zoom really deep on that part. If I see, without them sharing anything, if I see their body significantly or insignificantly, if I see their body change while explaining something, I will actually pause and say, what happened right there?
Yes.
What you just did this, like, what happened there? Tell me about that motion.
Your body's telling a story.
Your body is telling a story that if we are brave enough and attuned enough to listen, it's got plot lines. It's so good.
Yep.
Let's answer some questions about experiential therapy that our dear listeners provided. We are pretty stoked about engagement.
What are the questions?
Okay. The first is, what are the benefits of experiential therapy and what is it best used for? I think I'm pretty biased on this question because I think I'm trying to think of a problem that would not benefit from experiential therapy. While it has applications in just about every form of therapy, there is something really special that happens in group work. And typically group work entails experiential activities. Like group work can just be talking in a circle, but it's often like art-based, recreation-based, adventure-based, nature-based. And literally just by having a group of people together in a room, if you're doing CBT work, that's still experiential because people are interacting and attuning with other people talking. So it immediately brings you to a place of making the unconscious conscious, often without even needing to share at all or being spoken to. Just by nature of, it's like the tilling that happens in experiential work of making that unconscious conscious. I think the benefits of experiential therapy, if I was to narrow it down to one big thing, it brings what you are most scared of to the surface in a way that you can witness it and say, oh, you're not that scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the shortcut to the thing under the thing, right? When we're talking about the content, that's the thing. There's the thing that happened, and then there's the thing underneath the thing.
Yeah.
Which is like the beliefs, the burdens, the feelings, the somatic energy that's been held as a result of the thing. And when you enter the experiential, you go straight to the thing under the thing.
Yes, that's what I mean by front door.
Yeah.
If like, oh, I'm really scared, let's say I have petrifying interview anxiety and I haven't been able to look for a job in years because I can't handle interviews. And I look at you and say, let's be with your fear for a moment. It's like, whoa, I just told you I can't even face this at all. Like it's been completely limiting. Why would I look at it right now? But instead, I can start by just guiding us through something and having them naturally kind of communicate who they are, maybe some of their strengths. I can have them prove some of their strengths in a silent activity or walking or so yeah, shortcut to the thing under the thing. It's the backdoor entry points. Brings it to the surface and then people get to say, oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
Good question. The next is, what type of individuals or types of trauma benefit from forms of experiential therapy? I will say there are versions of experiential therapy that are regulating, and like with the emphasis being on self-exploration. Typically, I will not respond with like full on, like exploring depths of a feeling within crisis. Like maybe someone actively experiencing abuse or like maybe in the soon after moments after a significant moment of violence or trauma. I would tap into other somatic things of just like bringing attention to the body. And again, this is still experiential, like what part of your body is neutral right now, or can you focus on the sound of my voice? Like I'm still being very here and now, but I'm avoiding pushing on that, like, and what does that mean for you? Or like, I'm not going to guide you to the depth of an experience when it is so viscerally still living in your body. I have found experiential therapy to be a beautiful way for people who don't want to talk about their trauma to process their trauma.
Yeah. And we know that now, as we know that you do not have to talk about it to heal from it, to move through it.
Yes.
To witness it, to unburden it.
Your actual narrative or the story of what happened, if you cannot or do not want to verbalize that to me, I do not need it. You don't need to. So I think in that sense, experiential work, because we're not taking that front door of what happened to you, we're using all these safer back secret passageways and exploring that way. People still have access to really deep healing without having to relive anything. And I think IFS parts work I've found is to be probably the most impactful version that I've worked with for trauma, healing from trauma.
I mean, I love it.
It's pretty magical.
It is.
And what you're living with now is the way your parts have adapted to that wound. Like that's what's in the here and now. The ending message is that experiential therapy is less so a specific modality with these rigid rules and more so like a philosophy and a set of tenets that are pretty applicable to life in the healing and therapeutic world, but also in life in general. Like the way I engage with life, my goal is to do so experientially. Where I have Post-it notes in my office and around my house that just say, don't think. Just as like small reminders to like bring me back to what is here. What am I leaning into? What is already existing in the here and now, in my body, in my world, in my relationships that I can just lean on and see what happens. Get out of healing's way.
Yeah.
Okay, all, thanks so much for listening to this final episode of Season 2 of That's My Therapy. Know that in between Season 2 and producing and releasing Season 3, there are still ways to engage with the podcast. One beautiful way is to, first and foremost, if you like this show at all, can you say it out loud either to someone else, or if you're feeling really ambitious, review us on the app or site that you listen to our podcast on. Reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts really help people find us and increase engagement with the podcast, which means we can listen and make it better. Next, That's My Therapy is still hosting different community events and opportunities to learn throughout our break between seasons. You can join Psychoeducation for the Soul, which is every first Monday of the month at 6:30 Mountain Time, a virtual gathering. Stay tuned to other resources and events that we release in our seasonal newsletter. And in general, keep listening, keep spreading the good word, keep healing and growing and changing because it is your nature to do so. All our love. Stay close. Thanks so much for listening to That's My Therapy. As a general disclaimer, the topics discussed in this podcast are just one unique perspective, not prescriptive mental health advice. May you find healing where it finds you. If you are feeling suicidal or in need of immediate help, you can reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988.
Only Stevie's birth was violent physical labor. Milo's was...
That was a sneeze.
Easy peasy uterus squeezy. Ain't no thing.